Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. Man, we have a ton of information to go over, an insane amount of info to just discuss with you guys. Incredibly active pattern we're right in the middle of right now. But listen, this could just be the tip of the iceberg. We could get even more active over the next several days, and dare I say, areas further south could get in the mix of some of this winter weather as we make our way into next week, maybe even the week after. So we're going to discuss everything in this video. The first thing we will talk about is just a little bit of information about what's going on right now across the mid-Atlantic into southern sections of New England. Not going to spend a long time on that. If you're not worried about that, of course, just skip ahead. The next thing we'll discuss, and we'll spend a good bit of time on this, is this winter storm across the middle of the country into the Midwest, the Great Lakes region, the interior Northeast, that will get going tonight, into tomorrow, and then into the next day. So this will be a pretty powerful winter storm itself. So we'll get very detailed on that, show you guys these individual graphics from the National Weather Service that show you predicted ice and snow totals. And then after we get done discussing that, we're going to talk about another storm system to round off the work week getting to this weekend. And this could be a powerful storm system. The winter weather side, we're still trying to figure that one out. I think it'll be further north, but I think this will bring severe weather to the south. In fact, they're already highlighting a risk area for Saturday for the deep south. Tomorrow will be a severe weather event on its own for areas of the deep south, but the one getting into this weekend could be more significant. There's going to be that winter weather side. A lot of people is going to see a lot of rain. There's going to be a lot of wind. This will be a powerful cutter. So we'll talk a little bit on that. The details will begin to emerge on that a little bit more as we move over the next 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll discuss the pattern setting up for next week, which could bring winter weather chances further to the south. Of course, remember, everything that I discuss in this video is not a forecast, but it is one heck of an interesting pattern as we get into next week and maybe the final several days of February. So we're going to get very detailed on that too, show you some wild model runs. Just buckle up. There is a lot. I think the rest of February is just going to be busy, guys. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank you so much for 100,000 subscribers. I'm going to do a little video here in the next couple of days, just kind of talking about that and things like that. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling tonight, because there is a lot to go over, and that intro was probably entirely too long, but you know how I am. But the Mid-Atlantic, we still got the winter storm warnings. I mean, we've had reports of over a foot of snow in certain sections of Virginia and West Virginia. You know, I was a little hesitant on some of these totals. I was totally wrong. We have overachieved in a lot of areas. Heavy band of snow moving over Washington, D.C. right now. We'll kind of zoom into these areas. We have winter weather advisories up into southern areas of PA. These winter weather advisories up here in northern PA, New York. This is for the second system. But we do have winter weather advisories up for Long Island. Just special weather statements in New York City. We'll see if we get upgrades to winter weather advisories in this area. But it's kind of confusing. Like this purple area up here with these winter weather advisories is for the second system over the next 48 hours. These down here are for the system moving in now. Heavy snow, very heavy snow moving into the DC area right now. And just to kind of take a look at the radar, like I said, that kind of whitish blue color, that is snow. This is freezing rain, sleet, long duration event. Heavy snow moving into the Delmarva. I would argue this green you're seeing up here, this is actually snow, but some of this is probably not hitting the ground yet, so I don't know if you're seeing anything in New York City right at this second. That could change over the next several hours, but we still got all this moisture to go here. Now, I would say the upper levels are going to begin to warm, so you're going to deal with a lot more ice down here where it's been snowing in some of these areas. But man, we have overachieved in a lot of areas and as far as snowfall. So this is the system right now. We have to see how far north this gets. So just showing you a couple last graphics. I want to show people kind of out ahead of this storm. So Dover still expecting around 6-7 inches of snow. Up here to Trenton, Philadelphia, around 3 inches of snow. Atlantic City, 5 inches. And, you know, just here's some updated information for this area. And then PA, around an inch in southern PA, outside of maybe what you already picked up. And then the last graphic we'll show for this storm, and then we'll send it on out into the sunset, and it's done. Several inches could fall in Long Island. 3 to 4 inches of snow out in Long Island. New York City, they're going for around 2 to 3. We'll see what happens. Bridgeport, 1 to 2. So, I mean, Apparently 2 to 3 inches of snow is not winter weather advisory criteria type snow in New York City. So, hey, they just got special weather statements up, but you do got winter weather advisories in Long Island. So long to this storm. This is the last update. Hope you guys are seeing what you wanted to see out there. Hopefully there's nobody too disappointed. But let's go on and switch gears, talk out west. We've been speaking on this winter storm for a while also. Snow's already breaking out across the Rockies. Let's initiate this. Let's just start this off for tonight around midnight to 1 a.m. So we got snow breaking out across the middle of the country. We take this into Wednesday morning. Some freezing rain as far south as Amarillo, maybe Oklahoma City, Tulsa. We do have winter weather advisories for a little bit of freezing rain. Moderate to heavy snow breaking out across Kansas, southern Nebraska, moving into the southwest corner of Iowa, starting to move into Kansas City, northern Missouri. And then we'll stop it here and we'll go on and flip it to this. Snow's beginning to overspread a good chunk of Missouri, the entire southern half and central areas of Iowa. Snowing pretty good back in Omaha, Lincoln, Topeka, still snowing. We'll take this one more. This is about midday tomorrow. Snow's beginning to move into St. Louis. I want to talk about St. Louis a little bit. Don't want to speak too much on it right now, but models look colder for St. Louis. So it looks like you guys are going to get more snow than maybe what some of the experts are saying. So I'll speak on that a little bit. Might be totally wrong. But snow begins to move into Chicago, Milwaukee, northern Illinois, central Illinois. You guys have not really had much of a winter. I'd say you hadn't had much of a winter storm in a while. By the time we start to move into Wednesday afternoon, heavier snow begins to move into northern Indiana, southwest lower Michigan. And how heavy is this snow going to be? I think it'll be pretty heavy once you get tomorrow evening into lower Michigan, the northwest corner of Ohio, northern Indiana. Are you going to get any winter weather in Indianapolis? Are you going to get a brief wintry mix? Is it going to stay all rain? That's a big question we need to figure out the answer to. And then what I'm watching as we're getting into tomorrow evening, some really heavy snow could be just north of Detroit. But are you going to stay all snow or are you going to mix to some freezing rain in Detroit? I think Cleveland will stay mostly rain. And I would say that the trend has been for this low pressure down here to be weaker, which means we don't have as heavy precipitation. But one thing I'm watching here is some lake-enhanced snow, like around the Milwaukee area, could enhance your snowfall as this system's pulling away. So the heavier snow might linger around late tomorrow night, snowing all the way up into southern Ontario, Quebec, could turn to a powerful winter storm. And then we switch it into the northeast, and here it comes Wednesday afternoon and to Wednesday evening. Freezing rain begins to break out over some areas. Has picked up a foot of snow. I think it'll just will continue. Freezing rain begins to overspread into PA. Winter storm starts to, basically move in. And this is only winter weather advisory type stuff, but just a solid wintry mix moves across areas of PA, those favored higher, hilly terrain regions. Certainly 500, 1,000 feet makes a difference. Full-on wintry mix moves on into the Adirondacks, eventually into the Berkshires. Boston might get a burst of snow right at the beginning. Might be a heavy burst of snow, the Berkshires. Certainly the Catskills could get a nasty icy mix. This is not going to be a nice snowfall, but it is snowing like crazy up here in Quebec. Toronto might get a nice snow event out of this. We'll see. And then heavy snow begins to move into Maine, but I think even you guys begin to mix. But northern Maine might stay all snow and heavy snow too. Could be a big winter storm up there for you folks in northern Maine. And then the system pulls on out and we're left with some lake effect energy. So let's break it down west to east. And if you're wondering, say if you're in Indiana or Nebraska and you're like, dude, show me where's a timestamp. I can't pull up a timestamp for every single state or there'll be like a million timestamps up in this video. So just work with me or just kind of skip ahead. But this is Colorado. Additional 2 to 3 inches of snow in Denver. Once we get into Ray, Burlington, and eastern Colorado, 4 to 6 inches of snow is forecast. Colorado Springs around 4. And then we look at northern Texas, the panhandle of Texas, panhandle of Oklahoma. A few tenths of an inch of snow, a little bit of ice, not a big event, just some winter weather advisory type stuff. And, someone made a great point on Twitter today. You might be better off kind of pulling up the graphics from Twitter from Norman. But even these graphics, here, if you live in Oklahoma City, Woodard, these areas, Tulsa, central Oklahoma, here's a graphic. Hopefully you can stop and read it, but I'm not a fan. But they do have this cool graphic, but it comes up blurry. But it does show, a trace of amount of freezing rain, a light glaze in Oklahoma City. Once you get north of Oklahoma City and west, you certainly can get 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of freezing rain, and then maybe a dusting of snow north of Oklahoma City. And of course, you do have the winter weather advisory. So sorry we don't have a great graphic up for you folks, but Tulsa going for around 1/2 inch of snow, Fayetteville 1/10 of an inch, Bartlesville about 1 inch of snow. So a little bit of freezing rain up here in this area too. Guys, if I'm going through this a little bit too fast, just pause the video. I'm definitely going to miss saying some towns, but Kansas, this is kind of downtrending a little bit. Once upon a time, some areas they were going for 8 to 12 inches of snow. I think with a weaker low pressure, it's not that we've lost the cold air, it's just we've lost the heavier precipitation. But still going for, in northern Kansas, a good 6 to 8 inch snowfall. Same thing with Topeka, Lawrence 4 to 6, Emporia 4 to 6, Wichita around 3. I would say Dodge City about the same thing. Coffeyville, maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow and a little bit of ice down here, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot. And then southern Nebraska, south of Interstate 80, good 4 to 6 inch snowstorm is likely. Lincoln going for around 6, Omaha 4 to 6, Beatrice 6 to 8, Falls City 6 to 8, and up the Sioux City about 2 to 3 inches of snow. Central Nebraska, just a few inches of snow, not a huge deal. Kansas City 5 to 9, St. Joseph 5 to 8, Kirksville 5 to 10, Bethany 5 to 9, Butler 3 to 6, Jefferson City in Missouri 2 to 5, Columbia 4 to 7. So this will be a solid snowstorm for you folks. Not expecting really any ice there. Springfield could get as much of an inch. Might not get that much though. Pittsburgh 1 to 3, Nevada 2 to 4. Up Interstate 44. More so ice. Warsaw 2 to 4. Definitely going to get a glaze of ice in this area. If you live in the yellow, few 1/100ths of an inch of ice. Just winter weather advisory type stuff. Then you get closer to St. Louis. They're only going for a trace to an inch in St. Louis. If you look at the Euro, it would point to more snow than that. So I would like to see what actually happens. If you live in St. Louis, raise your hand. Just kidding. But comment in the comments tomorrow. By the time we get into the next couple of days, I would like to know what you guys ended up seeing. Quincy 3 to 5, Pittsfield 2 to 5, Columbia 2 to 4, and this is between now and 12 a.m. Thursday. So definitely gonna get a little bit of ice, especially south of this area. But moving into, man, this is everywhere. Yeah, they definitely got some confusing graphics here. But kind of getting into Illinois, once you get, I would say, Mattoon, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch of freezing rain. Paris, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch. Champaign, maybe a little bit. Springfield, not expecting much though. And then we get closer to Chicago. And I don't know where my graphic for my folks here. They got this everywhere. Let's look at this. This is better. All right, I know this is scrawny. Hopefully you can see it very well. Springfield, 2 to 3 inches. Bloomington, 2 to 4. Peoria, 3 to 5 inches of snow. And then we can look at Detroit. I'm sorry, Chicago. 4 to 6 inches of snow in Chicago. 4 to 6 inches of snow kind of south of Chicago along the Interstate 94-80 corridor. Juliet, 4 inches. Rockford, 4 to 6. Dixon, 4 to 6 inches of snow. Pontiac, 3 to 4. So it has downtrend a little bit in this area. And then Des Moines, 5 to 8 inches of snow now is what they're calling for. Davenport, 4 to 6. Dubuque, 5 to 7. Fort Dodge, 3 to 5. And then, Milwaukee, 5 to 9 inches of snow. Janesville, 4 to 7. Lake enhancement will help you guys. So Madison of 3 to 6, but closer to the actual Lake Michigan. A little bit of lake enhancement will help you guys. Stick to your local people for this for sure. They're going to know more about that. But I know enough to know that you will get some enhancement off Lake Michigan. Indianapolis, inch or less. Not a big snow for this area. You probably are going to get some ice. For Indianapolis itself, maybe as high in as a 1/4 inch of ice. Once you get north of the city, Tipton, 1/4 inch. At most, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch. Muncie, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch. Same thing for Crawfordsville, Lafayette, Marion up to Fort Wayne. You're going to get this kind of corridor of notable freezing rain accumulations. Northern Indiana, good for around 2 to as much as 6 inches of snow. South Bend, 3 to 5, well, 3 to 6. Fort Wayne, 1 to 3. Get up to Three Rivers, 4 to 6 in Lower Michigan. And then Lower Michigan itself now going for 4 to 6 in Detroit, so it looks like they've dropped it a little bit. Flint 6, Lansing 6, Grand Rapids 4 to 6 in general. Looks like they're not going for some of those higher end totals we were seeing this morning and the day before. They've dropped it, and like I said, I just think that it's not because you're losing cold air. I think it's just because the system kind of has lost a little bit of meat to it, if you will. So northern Ohio, Cleveland, this is a few tenths of an inch of snow in northern Ohio. Not a big event at all, but you could get some nasty ice in northwest Ohio. Findlay, close to a 2/10. Bowling Green, same thing. Toledo, 1/10 to 2/10 of a freezing rain. So the further you get down Interstate 80 west, you're going to start to notice some more freezing rain issues. And then we start to get into the Buffalo area. About 3 inches of snow in Buffalo, Rochester 2.5. Tuck Plateau, a few inches of snow up here to Clayton, 7 inches of snow. Watertown, 3.5. And you could get a very light glaze of freezing rain. I wouldn't expect much. The rest of New York, Syracuse, 4 inches. This is between now and 7 p.m. Friday. So this is combining a little bit of lake effect snow off Ontario. So Tuck Plateau is obviously noted here. But moving into, and I don't want to ignore my folks here in Vermont, several inches of snow is possible in higher elevations, but the valley areas might not even get an inch of snow. This is definitely a mixing storm. But we get into New Hampshire. Pretty much anybody in New Hampshire is good for at least 1 to as much as 4 inches of snow. Down east, southern areas of Maine, western areas of Maine, Auburn 3 to 4, Rumford 4 to 6, Jackman 4 to 6 inches of snow, Augusta 3 to 4. This will be wet snow, but this could be a bigger system for northern Maine. Once you get up to like Caribou, 8 to 12 inches of snow could add up here. This will be a big one. If you live way up here in northern Maine, definitely a bigger winter storm for you folks. So. All right, deep breath. Let's continue to move past that storm. So there's another one. I'm just going to show you tropical tidbits. We'll be able to hyper-focus in on this once we get past the storm over the next 48 hours. But this is starting off Friday morning. Another system. This is the latest Euro. See snow breaking out across the Great Lakes area. Okay, and then a big system will erupt. So this is Saturday morning. Low pressure begins to develop. We got this band of snow over the plains developing again, the Midwest, and basically a low pressure that's beginning to deepen big time across Arkansas, Louisiana, 1,001 millibar low. We got snow on the front end of this moving into the northeast Saturday afternoon, and we got 998 millibar low cutting across and just east of the Mississippi River across Kentucky, Tennessee, and this would be most likely a lot of severe weather for the Deep South. I'll speak on that here in a second. Snow on the northern end of this could get blizzard conditions from this, and a 992 millibar low cutting across Ohio could get a lot of storm activity across the Mid-South, and this would be another big winter weather mess in the Northeast, mixing to a lot of rain. And this 985 low cutting across New York midday Sunday is going to bring a lot of high winds, a lot of high winds, a lot of heavy rain into the Northeast. Powerful system, and then cold air follows. And the GFS shows it too, guys. Here it comes. A big winter storm. Potential breaking out across the Great Lakes region. Much colder. Wants to bring snow as far south as New York City into southern New England. All the Northeast. Low pressure is much weaker at first. It begins to strengthen, but it does it later, so therefore it's more suppressed. So what I'm basically saying is that the GFS is just a colder, more suppressed run and keeps that low pressure cutting, I would say, further east, so therefore it brings more winter weather. So this is a pretty strong low deepening across the I-95 corridor, bringing a lot of rain, strong winds, but it brings backside snow. It just brings more winter weather into this, and probably less severe weather if the GFS is correct. But this is your next storm system. Big one into the weekend. This will bring big impacts. And that storm system has a pretty strong snow signal to it. The Euro Ensemble, as we're starting to get into Friday morning, this is in 24-hour periods. So it combines 51 members together. What does all those 51 members show in that 24-hour period? It blends that number together, and we get our snowfall average or blend. And here it goes, popping up Friday into Saturday. Shows a several-inch snowfall average mean. 2 to as much as 5 inches across Wisconsin. Heck, even shows it for Chicago, Green Bay, Milwaukee, into lower Michigan, even northern Indiana, northern Ohio. Skirts across southern Ontario, and then we get into the Northeast with this, and here it comes. I mean, this is a solid snowfall signal. I mean, even into Boston, it gives you, the mean is over 3 inches of snow in Boston. Not much for down in New York City, Long Island, but all of New York, northern PA, the Northeast, this is a pretty solid winter storm signal and increases even more. So I would say that the Euro ensemble is more aggressive than the actual operational Euro, but shows a solid interior Northeast New England snow event, especially for this area. And I mean, we're going to get snow on top of snow because we got the winter storm before this too over the next 48 hours. So this will be another winter storm. Chances are you're going to get winter storm warnings in this area. They might expire and then they'll get turned around and just get reissued again. So yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be a big storm system this weekend. And one thing I'll mention is there's a severe weather threat for tomorrow. A slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk. And who knows, this might upgrade to an enhanced risk. But if you live in this yellow area, I mean, there is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. This gets all the way into the southern suburbs of Atlanta. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, down to Mobile, Gulfport, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Hattiesburg, Meridian. A 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location for tomorrow. So I just kind of want to throw a bone to that, and I'll speak more on it tomorrow. And then we got a 15% risk in the yellow area of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour, some of these storms. And the hail threat is not that big at all tomorrow. The dynamics don't support it. And a lot of rain. Between all these systems, between now and the end of the weekend, this takes us through Sunday evening, several inches of rain. Find where you are on the map. I mean, that's a lot of rain, especially through the deep south to the mid-south up into the Alps, which some of those areas could be snow and freezing rain. So what I can tell you going after this storm is we're not going to slow down at all. Okay, so we're dealing with a storm now. We got another storm over the next 48 hours. We got another storm this weekend, and there's going to be more storms to follow. This is the latest European. So after that system for this weekend moves over, we get into Monday morning the 17th. Okay, we're going to have some energy flying around. Cold air is going to blast through, and the energy is going to drop down with a reinforcing shot of cold air. So we start to get into Wednesday morning the 19th. Look at this winter storm breaking out across Arkansas, Oklahoma, southern Missouri, Tennessee. Okay, then it loses a little bit of a connection there. And then it cranks up again for North Carolina and wants to bring several inches of snow for North Carolina. And I will just take a closer look at it. Might as well, right? Bring several inches of snow for eastern North Carolina, for eastern Virginia, for the Delmarva. Cranks up a snowstorm right at the last second. Okay? And then, heck, we'll even look after that. Might as well. All right? And then there's another system right behind it. That looks interesting. Cold air around. Okay? So, but I really want you to focus on this system right here. That one right there. This is starting to get under 1 week out. Something's coming right here. So this is the GFS. Does it show it? This is after the weekend storm. Huge dome of cold air dropping down. And once again, look at the snow coming down with it. Snowstorm begins to break out across Kansas, areas of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. Same thing was the Euro. This is getting into the evening of the 18th. Winter storm breaks out across Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. Okay? And then, look at the winter weather breaking out across. There's a lot going on. Look at the winter weather breaking out across North Carolina, even upstate South Carolina, Virginia, winter storm. I mean, this is under 200 hours out. And it just continues. You think it's over, and then cold air settles in, and then it wants to show some love to my house. Brings a winter storm here to South Carolina, northern Georgia, the Carolinas. And, yeah, guys, I mean, and the first thing I'll say is this is not a forecast. You guys know that. When we're talking this far out, it's not a forecast. What I will say is a lot of things support this type of stuff. Okay? Now, it tries to crank up another winter weather event, the GFS, just doing crazy stuff. And then it looks like we're done with the shenanigans after that. And look, the Euro ensemble shows a signal with this. This is getting into early next week. So we're getting to Tuesday morning. We're getting into Wednesday morning. There's the signal for the storm system the operational run just showed. the Euro and the GFS. This is 24-hour periods like we just showed before with the other system. It shows a signal for winter weather going across this area into the mid-Atlantic. It shows it. And then you look at the GFS ensemble. Does it support its op? I can already tell you it probably is because it normally does. And here it goes. There's that winter weather sinking to the south, and it's definitely further north. It doesn't support its op, actually, so I'm dead wrong. Normally it does, and it really has a solid snow signal to the north and to the mid-Atlantic and to the northeast. So that is wild. That's pretty rare for the GFS ensemble to not support its operational run like that. So I think we're just going to get some wild runs. And one thing I can tell you we're confident in is this blast of cold air. So this is the cold air that's going to follow the system this weekend. That greens, the blues, the purples, that's well below average temperatures. Now just remember that your average temperatures for mid to late February, they start to go up compared to January. But this is still very cold temperatures. Might get a moderation period as we get a week out, and then the Arctic air begins to drop down again, and we get a blast of cold air that settles into the central to eastern U.S., and it sticks around all the way through the last days of February. And the Climate Prediction Center sees this too, guys. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Runs from the 17th through the 21st. Was issued today. If you live in the blue, especially the darker blue, that's where they're saying that their confidence is leaning towards below average temperatures in this period. You mix that with precipitation, they're leaning towards above average precipitation in these areas. That's going to bring some winter weather chances, I think, further south. I'm not talking about any specific city in the south. I am not. Everybody considers the south different. Some people had somebody that was kind of bickering with me that considered Virginia the south. I don't really consider Virginia the south. I consider them the mid-Atlantic. There's different opinions on what's considered the mid-south. I consider the mid-south like Tennessee being like the heart of the mid-south. I consider like Arkansas the mid-south, like northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and even Kentucky. I would throw them in the mid-south. I would say this pattern really supports you guys. Okay, but I would still consider like Arkansas the south. And I think a lot of people in Arkansas would consider, y'all would consider yourselves the south too. So just to kind of, hopefully that makes sense. But the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, 19th through the 25th of February, still going for below average temperatures. So winter is here to stay. And listen, I think that this could last into March. And below average temperatures predicted in this time period too, with the chance of above average precipitation in the deep south in the eastern U.S. And for folks that say that, hey, it's too late to snow, you got to be kidding me, right? I don't know. You must be like 10 to 15 years old, because a lot of the old timers can tell you we have gotten some of our biggest winter storms in late February and even March, going throughout history. So it sure as heck can still snow late in winter. In fact, normally your big dogs happen that late in the year. But I can tell you, the reason that models have shifted towards all this, and we've been talking about a little bit over the last couple weeks, I've been showing you the MJO charts, is because they're catching on to the favorable MJO progression. And it's going to be a little bit difficult to understand, to explain. Geez. I like to say words backwards. Ask my wife. But you're just going to have to take my word for it here. Phases like 3, 4, 5, especially 4, 5, and 6, and even 7, but definitely 4, 5, and 6. These are warm phases, okay, for the eastern U.S. especially. Okay, so one thing we've noticed is, and I'm going to look at the GFS one over here, for example. We have been working our way through warmer phases. Like this is the 31st, this is the 2nd of February, this is the 10th of February, the 11th. We are starting to work out of phase 7. I think we are in phase 7 right now. We're going to quickly move into phase 8. Phase 8 is the golden phase for winter weather further south, for the eastern U.S. It supports cold into the east for the central U.S. also, and it supports an active storm track, and it just supports winter weather and the winter weather months. It shows us by the time we get to the end of the week into this weekend, this is the 13th of February, 17th, 15th, 14th. It shows us cluttering up in phase 8. It shows us cluttering up in phase 8 here, phase 8. We continue to move all the way down to, say, the euro. Okay. Phase 8 into phase 1. Phase 1's favorable too. Same thing right here. And then you look at the extended forecast. I can get this going here. The extended forecast, guys, shows just a progression through all the favorable phases. Goes through phase 8 over the next week or so, right into here. Gets to phase 1, then eventually phase 2, and then it tries to do a hook and lateral and go back to phase 8. So we got a lot working for us for at one heck of a backloaded half the winter. For a lot of people. We're nowhere close to done, in my opinion. So buckle up. That's all I got. I know that's a lot of information. I honestly thought that video would go on for 45 minutes, but only 30 minutes. But that's all I got, guys. God bless you all. Appreciate you all. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, and I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the snow in the Mid-Atlantic.